I'm here with 97th District State Representative Joel Johnson, and Joel was nice enough while they are on holiday break until January 11th to stop in and pay us a visit. 2011 was a very interesting year at the state level. Can you fill us in on some of the changes in the Capitol?
Well, I guess some of the big things that we've done is to try to tackle things that have been limiting to jobs, and to try and help job providers to provide those jobs for people in Michigan. One of the things is to get rid of the Michigan business tax and to structurally balance Michigan's budget. In getting rid of the Michigan business tax, we went to a straight 6% corporate income tax, which it levels the playing field. And then at the same time, we allowed the small businesses, your neighbors next door, to file their income tax based on their personal income from those businesses, rather than having to pay an MBT, a surcharge on the MBT, and then personal income tax. So this has been very helpful to job providers. This, along with our balanced budget, has been one of the big things that has helped Newsweek and Bloomberg rate us #1 and #2 as far as the states in our ability to help provide new jobs. And so we're excited about that.
That's exciting. And you've had the opportunity to introduce legislation, which actually, recently, the lifetime perks ending for legislators. That's something you felt strongly about, something that, lends to the economic stability of the state?
That was a big deal for us. We looked at that and we said, there's no job that you can go to other than this where after 6 years you can get retirement health care.
Right.
And so there was something that I talked to a lot of other legislators about, and they agreed that this isn't right. And I have to credit my other fellow legislators with helping me on this, because without their votes it would have never happened. And it's been talked about before, but nothing's been done. So with that ends that retirement health care benefit with 90% of your health care being paid after only 6 years of service. And it saves a lot of money for the people of Michigan, and it also helps people know that we want to do the right things. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have done that.
Sure. And speaking of doing the right things, so a new piece of legislation that you introduced very recently addresses the school funding disparity.
Yes.
Explain that for people who don't understand.
This is another situation where it's the right thing to do, and there will be those in the higher funded schools where it's going to be hard for them to support this, but we're going to do our best to get folks to do it. But the situation that we're in right now is that when Proposal A was put in, there were schools that were encouraged to vote by saying that we will keep your funding higher than other schools, and your funding will continue to grow. Well, the funding has continued to grow, and however, the disparity there, I believe, is really unfair. Foundation grant funding should be the same for every student in Michigan. There's not enough difference regionally to say, well, the expenses are tremendously different. Or, in fact, I know of superintendents who drive past a school where the students are worth $1,000 more per student than the school where they're going to work.
Right.
And how do you justify that? And we're trying to foster self-esteem with our students and so forth. And when we tell our students, our students here are worth $6,846 to the school system, and somewhere else they're worth $8,100. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
What we've proposed is to average out the funding that's available and bring this to, it would be $7,195 as an average, because there are schools at the bottom, there are schools at the top, and there are schools everywhere in between.
Right.
And so the idea is to bring equity there and do it over a 3-year period of time, because those schools that are going to lose, they need a little time to adjust as this goes. One of the other things that I'm hoping that we're going to do is to help with the school employee retirement program, the MIPSERS program. And as it is right now, it's costing schools 24% of their wages that they pay has to go to this, back to this retirement program because of the unfunded liability. And so what I'm hoping is that as funds become available, that we'll be able to pay down on this retirement program and help the schools reduce the amount that they have to pay into it, and fundamentally change that program so that it's, as we can get it paid down and take care of the folks who we have commitments to, and then from there change it to a defined contribution program rather than a defined benefit program. And so this will help save the schools a lot of money. So my hope is that we can save all the schools some money there, and this will kind of help a little bit in offsetting the big change in the decrease for some of these schools. Sure. But, you know, we've done a lot of things because they're the right thing to do in the legislature, and this is one of those things. It is the right thing to do. We've had, I had 14 co-sponsors on the bill that were ready to go along and promote this right away. I've had others who have said, we expect to be able to vote with this, on this with you. So it will take some time, and one thing I've learned is that I can't just work for this in my, in the House. Right. I need to go to the Senate and work hard on it there as well, because you know, a lot of times the folks that I work with every day and really have an opportunity to speak to in the House can more easily support it, and then we have trouble in the Senate. So we're going to be working on this in both chambers, and it's going to be one of our priorities for this year.
Good, very good. Anything else that you see as a priority for 2012?
Well, reforming the MIPSers, as we talked about, is a big thing. Keeping our budget balanced, we've got things pretty well set up as to where we need to go with that. You know, we've got several other issues that we're working on. Some of those issues have to do with natural resources. We continue to work to make sure that public lands are truly public. That you know, we've had some of the issues with specific user groups who haven't been able to use certain lands, and we want to make sure that, you know, if there are areas that they need to be excluded from for a period of time, that's understandable, but this public land is for the public's use, and we need to make sure of that. The other thing that I see a big deal with right now, particularly in our area, is that we have a lot of oil and gas reserves here, and we need to make sure that we make the best use of those resources, but we need to make sure we do it in a safe way. I understand a lot of people's concern with fracking, and I want to make sure that we establish the safest way possible to get these things done, and we do it in areas that it's going to be the least of a detriment to the surrounding community and so forth. My understanding is that there are some ways that are much safer, or very safe, to do this. Some ways that are still a little questionable, and so we want to protect our environment, but we also want to make use of those resources. So, so it's a fine line there, but
it is.
That's a big priority for me right now. And being on the Natural Resources Committee, I think I have an opportunity to work with that. It's something we've talked about in the past, but we're coming to a point now that we've got to step up and do it.
People are dropping wells here in Gladwin County. So yeah, we're definitely going to be interested in learning about the safest practices and keeping it as far away from contamination, pollution as we possibly can, and keeping our land safe.
Right. So that's very important. I understand that a lot of leadership has in their radar to do something with personal property tax, and then there's a lot of us who also say, okay, probably we do need to do something with that, but we also need to make sure that we're protecting our local governments, and we can't just leave them out in the cold either. things is that most likely utilities would be excluded from any change there. So that will help a lot. But then we also need to find other ways that we can help these communities before something like that would be pulled out. So just a lot of good things, and we're really happy with the things that have taken place in 2011, and excited to move forward into 2012.
Very good. Now, you drive back and forth every day. You come home to Clare.
Yes.
What's daily life like in Lansing for you? Is it a different world down there?
It is different than what I'm used to, yeah, but I really do enjoy it. And a lot of folks talk about lobbyists and so forth, but if you listen to everybody and do your own research besides, you really do get a pretty good feel for what's going on. One of the issues that has been lobbied heavily on both sides has been the reform of auto insurance and the no-fault, and the change in personal injury protection that has been requested by insurance companies and by the bill sponsor of 4936, I believe is the number. I have not been comfortable with the changes that have been set forward there. I think there are some things that we can do to help make our catastrophic claims fund stronger and able to last throughout the years. But to totally change that system, I'm very concerned about the changes that have been put forward. And this is one of those situations where I've voted in a way that was different than most of my colleagues on my side of the aisle in the committee. There were 2 Republicans that voted against it. I was one of them. And however, it still passed in the committee, but there's not enough votes to support the changes that have been put forward at this point. And many of us have put forward our own suggestions, and they are also talking to stakeholders about changes. So, I hope as we move forward that there are some ways that we can strengthen this program and not tear it apart.
Sure.
So that's another priority for us.
Well, it's always good to see you. You're always a friendly face when we see you out in the community. And
it's always great to have the opportunity to be here.
Well, and I love giving the readers a look behind the scenes at what we do. It's always fun to hear it from the horse's mouth. So I thank you for coming in and talking to us today.
Thanks a lot, Steph.
Thanks.